Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for waiting. Thank you to Senators Blumenthal and Klobuchar for joining us, or Klobuchar and Blumenthal, not seniority, but leadership. Got to get it the right way. For joining us today. Look, everywhere you look, the Republicans are one big hot mess. Everywhere. So many different things. Donald Trump's agenda of cost, chaos, corruption is terrible for America, and it's despised by the American people. Look at this failed and reckless war. What did Americans get out of the last 100 days of this war? Well, a $100 billion bill, 13 lives lost, 500 people injured, gas prices up, inflation up. Iran, they're the big winners. Trump was such a poor negotiator, they just took him to the cleaners. $300 billion fund, sanctions relief, more control over Hormuz than he had before it started, and a more radical, emboldened regime. That's not strength, it's surrender. So Americans got worse than nothing from this war. We're worse off than before it started. And that's precisely why Trump, Rubio, and Vance are too afraid to come before the American people and the whole Senate to defend this war and the so-called understanding. Instead, Trump only will talk to Senate Republicans behind closed doors, and from what it looks like, that ain't going to be pretty. Senate Republicans need to grill Trump for answers on where negotiations stand when he meets them on the Capitol tomorrow. More than a week after announcing side deals and so-called understandings with Iran, the administration still has not briefed Congress or the American people on what has been agreed to. Wishful thinking won't end this war, and certainly Senate Republicans' calls to pump billions, hundreds of billions of dollars more into Trump's fiasco will make matters worse. Republicans can't complain about Trump's war, his secrecy, his disastrous deal with Iran, and all of it behind closed doors. But the only way to ensure this war ends once and for all is for Republicans to act, to join us in voting to end this war. Any minute now, we're once again going to put Republicans on record on whether they want Trump's disastrous war to continue by forcing a vote on the Iran War Powers Resolution for the first time. We have forced this fight on the floor again and again and again for more than 100 days because only Congress has the power to take our nation to war, not Trump alone. Republicans need to support our War Powers Resolution. We're just one vote short. And they need to hold Trump's feet to the fire in their meeting tomorrow. Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you, Chuck. So what is this about? The administration, according to the Association Press today, because we've been trying to figure out how much this war costs, has spent somewhere in the neighborhood of $80 billion. That's an AP report, maybe a bit less, maybe a bit more. That's a lot of money. You add that to the $70 billion they just put out in extra funding to ICE, that would be $150 billion. This is not where Americans are right now. This is not what they want them to be spending their money on. What do they care about? Well, inflation is eating up any wage increase that they have. This month's inflation report showed inflation up 4.2%, another record high under President Trump. There was just a recent report by NPR and PBS, a poll showing that 49% of Americans aren't taking a summer vacation for one reason, and that's because they can't afford it. That's a lot of people. So what should we be doing with this kind of money? Well, the first is something we actually did, thanks to leadership, thanks to Senator Warren, Senator Scott, and others, is housing. That was a Senate-led bill, and there's a lot of work that went on it in the House, the Road to Housing bill, but it gives you an example. Imagine if this president was focused on what the American people want done. and that is to bring their costs down and to reduce the chaos of his administration and the corruption. They don't want to be talking every day about algae in the reflecting pool. They don't want to be talking about cage matches and arches and ballrooms. Instead, what are they dealing with? They're dealing with rising healthcare costs. New polling from Gallup, fewer than half of Americans could afford quality health care last year. More than 4 in 10 already carry medical debt. So what did they do? They refused to extend the tax credits for the Affordable Care Act. You know what that has meant? A bunch of Americans, millions of people, have had to lose their coverage. Just that one decision. He literally sent money to Argentina, the same amount of money as would have been spent on a year of Affordable Care Act tax credits. These are misplaced priorities. Instead of the $80 billion estimated on this war, we could extend those healthcare premium tax cuts for 2 more years. Another thing Americans want us to focus on, childcare. 80% say the ability to find or afford childcare is a major problem. Senate Democrats have come out with a plan to bring down childcare costs, to actually do something about this. But what is President Trump talking about? His reflecting pool, his name on the Kennedy Center. So as we come upon the anniversary of this country, of which we are proud, the 250th anniversary, we also sadly come on another birthday, and that is the big, beautiful betrayal of a bill is 1 year old next week. And what has that meant? More than 4 million people, including over 800,000 children, have lost access to affordable food through SNAP. 481 hospitals have closed or are closing, with more to come because of the Medicaid costs. So let's get real about what is going on in this country and what this president should have as his priorities, and that is the American people.
Thank you. Thank you. To the American people, this administration has constantly concealed and lowballed the costs of this war. As a member of the Armed Services Committee, I can tell you this number is only a portion of what the cost to taxpayers have been. But of course, the tax and the costs to taxpayers are also at the grocery stores, at the gas pump, purchases of everything from mattresses to medical devices, and in lives. It isn't only Americans who have lost their lives. There are thousands of Iranians who have been buried. The cost is measured in graves of Americans and Iranians who would be alive today but for this disastrous war. And to our standing in the world, our credibility around the world has been undercut. The Chinese are watching, and so is the rest of the world, how lame and inadequate our bargaining position has become in these negotiations. It isn't only that we are providing sanctions relief worth tens of billions of dollars or unfreezing of assets, which is a windfall. It is the timing. Their benefits are up front. We are on our back foot. We are sacrificing our leverage in these negotiations by giving away a lot of our leverage in the sanctions and the frozen assets that now will be released to the Iranians to be used as they wish, not to buy American agricultural products. So I hope we are going to have a permanent peace. I hope we can avoid a restart of this disastrous, unnecessary conflict. But it will depend on smart, strategic negotiations and on a determination to have peace, not imaginary or magical thinking. Republicans should join us this afternoon in this War Powers Resolution. It is the path for Congress to signal that we want an end to this conflict and for bipartisan support in ending it. American families can't afford this administration's magical thinking any longer. The War Powers Resolution should pass today. I hope these negotiations will be successful, but ultimately, the linchpin will be verification, inspection. The disagreement that has come out of Switzerland between Vance and the Iranians is profoundly important as a signal for what is ahead. Because if the Iranians don't allow ironclad, airtight inspection, there will be no agreement, and any agreement should come to Congress. Thank you.
Leader Schumer. Good afternoon. Thank you. Republicans contend that the Save America Act is popular with the public here. Do you worry that they could try to boomerang this on some of your vulnerable members by saying that you're not for this bill?
The American people know what a disaster this is. They know that it would remove 20 million people from the voting rolls. And so the American people are totally on our side on this issue. Yes.
What do you think of Israel's role in this attempted MOU agreement where they're bombing Lebanon? Ben-Gvir has come out and said we should not
Look,
adhere to it.
this war is disgusting, and we hate it, and it should be ended immediately. Yes, back there. Listen, this is all up to the Republicans. As long as Pulte is there, there's not going to be any FISA agreement. It's up to them to get rid of him. I hope at the lunch tomorrow, the Republicans make that clear to them. Yes.
Do you plan on endorsing Graham Plattner? Do you think he wants your endorsement?
Look, the bottom line is we are going to beat Susan Collins, and we are going to win the Senate.